the NASA form. If you don't know what the NASA form is, next time you get an airline, listen very closely to the seatbelt demonstration. I mean, this is something we really all should know in and out. Send it within 10 days. Get it out there. You can do it online. When they moved to the online thing for a while, was you had to fill it out online, and then you had to mail it in, so you get a mailing receipt. Now the whole process could be online. There's no reason not to file a NASA report. It's a safety program with benefits. It's anonymous. If you file a NASA report, there's an area in which you identify yourself. That's get pulled off before it gets into the database. Don't put your name anywhere in the narrative. You're given it. People have done it. You're given an anonymity. Take advantage of it. Don't lose it by putting yourself in there. The NASA report, part of the anonymity is the NASA report itself can't be used in an enforcement proceeding. So, if the FAA finds out that Mike filed a NASA report, and now they start certificate action against him independent of the NASA report, and they find out, you go, did you file a NASA report? Yeah, I'm willing to give it to you, here it is. Aha! Now we got you. They can't do that. They can't use it against you. Get out of free card. What it does is, it's part of the evidence that the FAA looks at in terms of determining whether or not the pilot, the violator, has a compliant attitude. And it's one of those, that you see it. I mean, if you have kids and they come and they admit their mistake, you're going to be a little more lenient than if you have to drag it out of them and have to find out from other sources. Important thing to remember is that the NASA report quasi-immunity applies to the penalty, not to the violation. It's not, aha, I filed a NASA report, they can't put a violation on my record. Yes, they can. What it does is it waives the sanction. So if it was going to be a 60-day suspension of your pilot certificate, that's gone. That's what the NASA report does.
So let's say somebody does, one of the most common things I think out there is like a buzzing type incident. So if somebody does it, don't talk about me, man. So somebody out there buzzing and then he does it and he thinks he got caught or somebody spotted him or ended up on YouTube, and he files a NASA report.
Next slide. The timing and the use of the, I think it's the next slide. The timing and use of the NASA report is strategic. When do you bring it up during the process and when don't you bring it up? But here we go. Next slide. Exceptions to the waiver. Accidents. If you have an accident and there's a violation associated with it, the NTSB, the NASA form, the ASRS form is not going to get you to waive the penalty if there's been an accident. Intentional, deliberate violation. There's your buzzing. Okay? You're not supposed to buzz. You did it. I mean, it wasn't, oh, I didn't realize how high I was and there was a house in the way. No, you're not going to get anywhere with it. And the question of intentional, and you actually see this during, Scott Morris is one of the FAA attorneys out of the Northwest region who I get to deal with a lot. What he does is he'll sit there and during the conference, he'll end up, he's really good, he'll tell you what he really thinks, and he'll tell you what he wants to do, and he'll tell you what he proposes, and he'll tell you right then and there, if you disclose to him that you filed a NASA report, he will say, I am accepting your NASA report, or I am not accepting your NASA report for this, that, and the other reason. And the issue of whether or not it's been an intentional or deliberate violation might very well be the basis for the appeal in front of the NTSB. Okay, so you now have a letter of investigation, you've got a notice of proposed certificate action, you go to the conference, you're found by the FAA lawyer says, no, I still think you're in violation. You go, well, I've got a NASA form, will you accept it? And he goes, no, I think this was not intentional, this was not unintentional, this was intentional, this was deliberate, you knew what you were doing, this wasn't just a mistake, and that 60-day suspension, we're going to impose it. No, You might very well do nothing but appeal the sanction and say, wait a minute, Judge, I want you to tell me that this was intentional, that it was deliberate. It doesn't prevent a 709 ride. Remember, the 709 ride is not punitive. It may feel that way, but it's not punitive. It's simply part of rechecking of qualifications, at least from the FA, from the legal standpoint. What we all feel when we're doing it is a whole other issue. So it doesn't stop a 709 right, since 709 right is not a penalty. It also doesn't apply if you've had a violation within the past 5 years. That means a finding of a violation. Whether or not there was a penalty, whether or not there was suspension, it doesn't mean you used the card, the get out of jail free card within the past 5 years. It means whether or not you were found to be in violation in the past 5 years. Merrill.